Welcome to episode 5. How do freelance editors make money? Today we'll discuss the different ways of setting your editing rates and how much exactly you can earn as a freelance academic editor. Some of the most common questions I get from people who are considering editing deal understandably with how much money they can earn, whether or not it would be enough to replace their faculty salary, and if there's enough work out there to make a sustainable living as an editor. Without being able to make specific predictions about you or your situation, I can confidently say that yes, I and many other academic editors out there do earn a great living as freelancers, and I consistently have more inquiries for work than I can take on. I know you're eager to get to the meat of this episode, so I'll stop teasing it here. But if you want to learn more about this freelance life and what I truly consider to be my dream job, go to acadiaediting.com/become an editor. Welcome to Leaving Academia, Becoming a Freelance Editor, the podcast. I'm your host, Paulina Cossette. In 2019, I was a political science professor who was fed up with the stress and hostility of academia, not to mention the low pay. I left my tenure-track job and went from barely surviving to thriving as a freelance academic editor. Today, I own Acadia Editing Services, an editing and coaching business that brings in 6 figures a year. In this podcast, I'll discuss the challenges of academia, what academic editing involves, and what life as a freelancer looks like. If you're willing to jump outside your comfort zone, it is possible to find joy, true flexibility, and a profitable and rewarding career as an academic editor. Thanks for listening. So today we're discussing the question that I know you all are curious about. How do I make money? And if you're listening to this as a podcast, on the YouTube version, I have a nice little meme of Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank saying, "But how can I make money?" There are typically 2 options in terms of setting rates, either per word or per hour. Per hour is more open-ended for you and for the client. You don't know exactly how long a project is going to take you to complete, so you're not able to tell the client exactly what the project will cost them. Understandably, this can create some anxiety in the client because they have limited funds and probably a budget that they have to stick to. Some editors do still charge by the hour, but I think this option is gradually being phased out in favor of charging a per word rate. If you begin working for an editing agency, like Scribendi, Enago, Adans, or one of the countless others, they typically charge their clients by the word for the projects that they submit on the website, and in turn, the agency pays you, the freelancer, also by the word. There's a huge range in what these companies pay freelancers, but typically it's around 1.5 cents per word US. So it's not great, but it is a good way for you to get started and practice your editing skills working as a professional editor. When you do this, it's important to understand how quickly you're able to edit and how that speed will increase over time. To get a sense of your editing speed and to determine your effective hourly rate, it's really important to track your time. You can figure this out by using a website like Clockify. I use the free version to track how long it takes you to complete each editing project. If you're listening to the podcast, you may want to check out the YouTube version for this particular slide because I'm showing a spreadsheet that I use in Excel where I track my time and my earnings, and then the spreadsheet calculates for me my hourly rate and my editing speed in words per hour. So pull that up on my YouTube account, Acadia Editing, under podcast to see what I'm talking about here. Basically, you enter the information about each project, the total income for the project or your total earnings for the project, how much time it took you in minutes and then converted to hours. And then Excel calculates for you your hourly rate and your editing speed in words per hour. And then also you can track your cents per word. By the way, if you enroll in my course, Becoming an Academic Editor, I include this template along with dozens of other guides to help you land your first editing jobs and attract clients. When you have this information, after a few weeks, you'll have a sense of what your average editing speed is and what your effective hourly rate is. This lets you know which companies you earn the most money from, what types of projects can take a little bit longer and therefore lead you to earn a little bit less money. And when you know about how many words per hour you typically edit, then you can assess each potential future project to determine how long it will take you to complete. When you start working with private clients, you can set your per word rates based on your average time spent editing, how long you think the project will take, and what you want your hourly rate to be. Another point to consider here is that over time, you'll gradually develop your editing skills and increase your editing speed. You'll become more familiar with Microsoft Word and the standard editing workflow, or the process you go through when you edit a document. And when you're getting paid by the word, even if the per word rate stays the same, your effective hourly rate will increase because you're able to complete projects much faster than you were when you first started editing. In fact, it's not uncommon to earn upwards of $80 to $100 per hour in your first 6 months as an academic editor. I have an earnings calculator that helps break this down for different editing speeds. You can get that if you go to my website. The key, of course, is to increase your speed without losing your accuracy. Precision in editing is always the most important factor. Still, this highlights another reason why I prefer charging by the word rather than by the hour. Now that I'm 5 years into my editing journey, I typically earn around $150 an hour, sometimes even $200 per hour on the right project. This is thanks to my experience, my ability to read quickly and catch almost all errors on the first pass through a document, and some tools that I use to speed up the editing process. These are things like macros in Word and text expander, but nothing that uses AI. But keep in mind here that this rate is based on my time spent editing. It doesn't include the additional time I spend replying to emails and making podcasts like this, though I still only work about 30 hours a week. In any case, if I were to charge clients by the hour and tell them that my hourly rate is $200, I think they might freak out a little bit. They may feel uncomfortable paying that rate and they may not hire me because of it. Some people may say that the client deserves to know what your hourly rate is, but I don't think that's true. My hourly rate is my business, just like my annual earnings are my business, and I don't share that information with clients. Ultimately, what I think clients care about is first, what they're going to pay for your services, and second, what their return on investment is going to be. Are your revisions to their document going to help them get their paper published? If you're editing job market materials, will your edits help them land an interview? If you're doing a developmental edit or coaching someone on how to turn their dissertation into a book, is your support going to help the client win a book contract and get it published? That's what clients really want to know. Then they decide what those outcomes are worth to them and thus what they're willing to pay to get these results. Furthermore, and to return to our original question of whether you should charge by the word or by the hour, I prefer charging by the word because the client knows upfront exactly what they're going to pay before I even start editing. I think this brings a sense of comfort and reassurance rather than leaving the potential amount due open-ended, which again can create worry. I touched on this earlier, but I want to elaborate a bit here. And this point is important, so if you've zoned out, refocus here for a minute. Your potential income as a freelance editor is going to depend a lot on how quickly you can edit. Accuracy, as I said, is always the top priority. If you return documents to your clients with lots of errors, they're not going to hire you again, and you're going to get a bad reputation. You don't want that. But as you get more experience, you can get faster and thus make more money. Some people, though, are very slow readers. It's important to understand that if it takes you a long time to read an academic article and make corrections to it, that's going to put a cap on how much you can earn in this business. It doesn't mean it's impossible to be a successful editor. You're just not going to be able to earn as much as someone who can edit a lot faster. But if you can read quickly, spot errors, and make corrections efficiently while still being very accurate, then you can do really, really well financially. Your income also depends on how much you can work each week. The beauty of this career is that you have all the flexibility you want. If you're considering editing as a side hustle, you can work as few as 5 hours a week during the semester, or even not at all, and then you can ramp up your editing projects during the holidays and the summer. But if you're thinking of going full time as a freelance editor, it's important to understand that this is not a salaried position. There are no benefits like health insurance or retirement, and you only make money when you do work. It's important to be honest about how many hours you have available each week to dedicate to editing, and whether or not those hours and that income will support you making the move to full time work. Another point I'll add here is that some people physically cannot sit at a computer staring at a Word document for 8 hours a day. So when you think about your availability, remember that even if you have 12 hours a day free to work, your body may not keep up with you on that. I do want to emphasize, though, that you can make a good living as an academic editor. During my first year, and I made a lot of mistakes in choosing which companies to work for when I was starting out, so I didn't make as much money as I could have. I only worked about 20 hours a week because I have small children, but I still made about 75% of what I had been making as a tenure track assistant professor in political science. So I made around $45,000 US. In my second year, I took 3 months of maternity leave when I had my daughter, but I earned the same in those 9 months that I had earned in my first full year of work. So again, I earned about $45,000 in 9 months, and I was still only working 20 to 25 hours a week. In my third year of editing, I matched what my faculty salary had been, around $60,000. And in my fourth year, last year, I made 25% more than what I had made as faculty, so about 75,000. This year, I'm excited to say that I'm on track to earn six figures while I'm working about 30 hours a week. And thankfully, my kids are in school this year. So let me say again, it should not take anyone 4 years to get to where I am now. I made a lot of mistakes because I didn't have any guidance, and I was scared to branch out on my own and work with private clients until 3 or 4 years in because I had this imposter syndrome that still creeped in even though I've left academia. I've also worked very limited hours because I've been raising my kids. But, with the right help and a clear plan, you can get here a lot faster. So, yes, it is possible to make money as an academic editor, but please keep in mind the caveats I've mentioned and understand, I have to say this for legal reasons, I am not making any promises to you in this conversation. I'm just sharing my particular experience. Thanks for joining me in this conversation about how much money academic editors can earn and the different ways of setting your rates. We've just launched our second cohort of my course, Becoming an Academic Editor, and people are already enrolling for our next cohort that starts in January 2025. If you want to find out more about the course and how you can begin this life of freedom, flexibility, and a sustainable income, go to acadiaediting.com/become an editor. I'll see you next time. If you're unhappy in academia and you think you might be a good editor or writing coach, check out my course, Becoming an Academic Editor. This digital course is paired with a 12-week group coaching program to support you through your decision to leave academia or not, and to start building a profitable and rewarding academic editing business. Learn more by going to acadiaediting.com/become an editor. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time.